Boys, we're back. It is upper day today, and I have an announcement to make. I will be competing in a show sometime in early October. I think it's October 4th. And that's a pretty big deal for me because, to be honest, I never thought that I would, compete this soon. And every time anybody asked me, they'd be like, Max, you planning on competing? I would tell them, I'd be like, no, zero interest. And the only way I would do it is if somebody basically did everything for me for free, and that's kind of what's happening. So I'm gonna learn posing. I'm gonna get prepped. I'm gonna do the whole thing. I'm gonna have a coach, which is cool, and that's gonna be awesome. You guys are gonna get to see me on stage. So my whole YouTube playlist, bodybuilding journey, actually somewhat has a point because I literally, making that playlist didn't really have much of an intention to compete. I just knew that at some point in my life I probably was going to do it, just because, you know how life works. You do something long enough and the stuff that comes with that ends up just kind of happening. But I'm excited. So anyway, we're about to be at the gym, and I'm going to document this whole prep for you guys so that you can see how it works, what goes into it, and you guys are going to see me shape up to be awesome on stage. So see you at the gym. Alright, so obviously, based on the intro, we're hitting a pretty awesome upper day. I muted the audio at the gym because there was music being blasted that was pretty awesome, but it was extremely copyrightable, so definitely not a good ideal thing there to include, but doesn't change the fact that we still are going really heavy today. It went a little heavier than excuse me. I went a little heavier than I wanted to on everything. Sometimes it just happens that way, you just try to go for numbers that you usually do and they don't move as well for whatever reason, or you try to go for slightly more than you usually do. Like the first movement I did, the lat fly, that actually was a really solid PR. That moved really well. But then the weighted pull-ups were a little bit mid. There was some kipping involved, which usually I can't really do because I let the plates rest on my shins, and then that prevents me from kicking my legs forward. But there I didn't. I just let it rest in between my legs. So that was a little weird. But, guys, sometimes you're gonna end up accidentally overshooting. Sometimes often. You guys see me, I'm not trying to, sound ridiculous here, but I'm pretty jacked, and the reason that I'm even remotely bigger than I was last year and bigger than I was the year before is because my mindset has just been, how can I get as strong as possible on every movement? And people, for whatever reason, tend to crap on the idea of strength training. They're like, oh, strength and hypertrophy are just totally different. They're completely separate. They really aren't, right? There are neurological adaptations that cause you to be stronger without gaining muscle. Yeah, absolutely. But that's not the majority of where your strength gains come from. The vast majority of your strength gains are actually from muscle building. And people don't realize that. But yeah, that's the truth. The biggest powerlifters are the strongest powerlifters for a reason. If I take, a really skinny guy, I could teach him all the technique in the world and he could gain all the neurological adaptations and, use his muscle way better than the next guy his size. But he's still not going to be as strong as Larry Wheels, right? Even if his technique is just exceptional and amazing and his leverages are great, right? Because Larry Wheels is, 280, lean. Okay, so just get that in your head. There is absolutely merit to chasing numbers with strict form, in a strict manner, right? Because if you're not actually trying to gain muscle by gaining strength year over year, your lifts are just totally plateaued, you're not going to see progress. In order for you to grow bigger hamstrings, if you're doing seated hamstring curls with 150 pounds and then a year goes by and you're still doing 150 pounds for the same amount of reps with the same execution, right? No difference in the technique, not even trying to make it harder, you're not going to be bigger. And you can say, well, I feel a burn. Well, it doesn't do anything. You can say, well, I get really sore. Doesn't do anything, right? Try to optimize your lifts, man. Try to get stronger in isolations like this. Try to get stronger in stuff that's not as isolated, right? It's all about pushing past plateaus. Anytime you see a plateau in your training, push through it. Get past it. Get over it. You don't get over it just by just training harder and just summoning everything up in you. Chances are, if you're watching this, you train hard, right? And you train to failure or close to it, okay? And that's good enough. But in order to push through plateaus, you do have to train smarter. And training smarter involves generally doing lower rep ranges, doing exercises you enjoy, not doing anything crazy gimmicky, making sure that, hey, if you're plateaued on the seated hamstring curl, maybe try single leg, because that's going to give you higher activation, and that's going to allow you to overcome the bilateral force deficit, right? And that's a principle that basically states that the sum of both limbs acting at once, the sum of their force, is less than the sum of both limbs acting individually, right? So you're going to get higher force production. You're going to get better motor unit recruitment when you do single limb exercises. And from what we know about motor unit recruitment, once you gain the ability to recruit a motor unit, you never lose that, okay? So that's where muscle memory comes from. A lot of people don't realize that, but the reason that, you see a dad who's, 45 years old, hasn't touched weights in years, all of a sudden make a crazy transformation. A lot of times it's TRT, but, they have muscle memory. If they were like a college athlete or something, they were pretty jacked back in the day. And they have muscle memory and they can get it all back pretty easy because they can have extremely high levels of motor unit recruitment, even well into old age, just because you always retain that ability. So, with that said, boys, those are just a few random examples. And you need to just keep thinking, how can I push past plateaus? How can I mitigate fatigue and maximize my stimulus and still enjoy myself, right? Because they've even done studies on, hey, who gets highest motor unit recruitment? The people who do, on paper, like the most optimal exercises, or the people who do what they enjoy the most? And the people who do what they enjoy the most get better levels of motor unit recruitment because they're more motivated, which lowers your perception of effort and makes it to where it's easier to recruit more motor units. People don't realize this, but your motor unit recruitment is determined by your sensory cortex, and your perception of effort goes through that, okay? So if your perception of effort is what determines your motor unit recruitment, and the lower the better, being motivated helps. That's why music helps, right? So just keep that in mind, boys. That's it for the day.